Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today's presentation is about handling manuscript rejections. And this presentation is a part of a playlist on reviewer, edit and editors' roles and responsibilities. I hope you watched previous videos. Now, today's presentation objective is to empower researchers to handle paper rejection effectively by distinguishing between the desk rejection and the reviewer rejections, offering actionable strategies to address the feedback that you will get from the editor or the reviewers, and emphasizing the importance of resilience and persistence in the academic publishing journey. I'm going to talk about the reality of academic publishing, the types of rejection, why rejection happen, how to handle rejections, the strategies to stay resilient, the bigger picture of this process, and how to develop a resubmission process and mechanism that is fast and effective before some takeaway messages. So let's start today's presentation. I'm going to talk today about the reality of academic publishing. Unfortunately, it's not always optimistic or positive, but that's it is. Why do we get rejected? Well, in reality, the rejection rates in top journals often exceed 80 or even 90%. Desk rejections account for up to 60% of submissions in some journals, and peer review remains the cornerstone, but is criticized for being slow and inconsistent. So this is important to understand that when we submit papers, they have to go through editor. The editor will decide it will get rejected or not, and then after we have the reviewer. So we have two ways or two moments the paper could reject it, either from the beginning at the source from the editor, or it could be rejected by the reviewers. Now, in any case, how can we handle that? This would be the question. Well, in reality, when we look at the academic publishing industry, it's an industry dominated by a capitalistic model, and it is in the hand of private companies. So in overall, this system is overwhelmed, and the volume of submissions has increased dramatically, with over 10 million manuscripts submitted globally in 2016, reflecting a flood in the academic publishing pipeline. Worldwide, through development in the global south, in the north, also global north, there has been introduction of universities. Those universities are publishing. There's more and more scientists, researchers, students who are getting involved in the publishing industry. Unfortunately, the universities and government, they outsource the publishing to private companies, and as a result, under the capitalistic model, the system now is stuck, kindly broke, and there is a flood of submissions every year. So you need to understand that, and understand that the system itself is overwhelmed and is broken. Now, what are the types of rejection that could happen or can researcher confront? We can have the desk rejection. This is the first type, which is simply an immediate rejection without peer review, so even it didn't start the pre-review process. Common reasons for that are that the paper is out of scope, or the paper is poorly formatted, or there is a full journal queue, so the journal is overloaded, or there's too much submissions per journal. Don't forget that a journal will publish per year around from between 3,000 to 5,000 articles. If there is 12,000 submissions, 20,000 submissions, by default, editors must reject papers. So it's a matter of demand and offer, and it's a matter of how many submissions they receive. If it's a young journal not having a high impact factor, it's not in a Q1 ranking, then maybe this ratio will change, and that you will find that it's totally the other way around, that the number of submissions is under the expected capacity of submissions. So maybe they get per year 1,000 submissions, but the journal is able to publish up to 3,000 articles. In this case, the acceptance rate will be high, but you will have less impact factor. So this equation, you need to understand it, and most high top journals are having queuing issues. Also, what happens that the desk rejection are related to biases, to commercial or editorial pressures. Many editors are too much empowered. They are like gods. Nobody can question them, and they are only following certain reflections on the trend, and they want just to have trendy work, or they want to have work from their region, or from a work that reflects certain countries. So also this happen, these kind of biases related to the editor or the editorial whole line or the whole journal, because you can see some journals are only allowing publication from certain region from the world. So these could be all reasons for the desk rejection. Now the second type of rejection is the reviewer rejection. Here we have a rejection after the peer review, and this must come with detailed comments, and here we can see that this rejection indicates a room of improvement. Unfortunately, the desk rejection does not indicate so much what should I do, maybe I should submit in another journal, what should I do with this comment, but here you will have a thorough feedback, or you should have received thorough feedback. You can use it to improve your own manuscript. Now, why does rejection happen? This is an important question. Well, whether it is a desk rejection or a review rejection, there is reason. For desk rejection, the main reason will be the misalignment with the journal scope, or the lack of novelty, or the poor presentation of your work. Those are the most common reasons. For a reviewer rejection, it will be mainly methodological flaws, or insufficient clarity or depth in your discussion, or in your contextualization, or in your nesting in the literature review or state of the art. It could be also a reviewer bias or miscommunication, because it happens, because reviewers change their attitude once they become known, because most reviewers are anonymous, so this happens also. And when we look at general studies, according to this study of Kadilkar, which is an old study in the field of medical research in India, it says that, for example, according to this pie chart, it could be the poor methodology, number one, in blue. In red is no new information, so no novelty, no innovation. Gray could be the poor scientific content. This is also related to the topic itself and the approach. The yellow is the case study, a low priority case study or case report in general. Blue is after similar paper, and so on and so on. So these are all reasons that could be found listed in this study if you are interested to have a look. But I listed for you the main rejection reasons in 10 points. Firstly is the mismatch with the journal aims and scope. It happens a lot. Lack of novelty and significance. This is always common, and this means that your work needs to be always up to date and using the language of the time. Lack of theoretical grounding, meaning that your work or your introduction does not have sufficient critical approach, didn't link the work to the literature review, does not build up on previous work, is not comprehensive enough. Number 4, inadequate connection with key articles. You didn't connect your work with previous work or with other work or who did similar work before. And this is also common a lot, happen. Many researchers don't do that. They think they are just writing and they did an experiment, that's it, I don't care about others. This is not right. Number 5, lack of research rigor, and this is reflected mainly in the methodology, that it's written in a way that does not allow for reproducibility. It doesn't communicate the major steps, what are the hypotheses, what are the boundary conditions, and so on, what was done to validate the work or verify the accuracy, and so on. Weak result analysis and interpretation, lack of statistical tests, for example, lack of interpretation, merging results with discussion, or having only a result and no discussion, or having a result written as a discussion. These all happen also. So number 7 is shallow discussion with little citation. Also, writing a discussion without citation, meaning that you fail to reconnect your work to the body of knowledge and nest your work in what has been already done and what should be done in the future. Number 8, the poor quality writing. Number 9, ethical issues. And number 10, the duplicate and previous rejection submission, meaning that either you submitted your paper in 2 different journals in the same time, for example. So these are all reasons why rejection happens. Now I have a theory that I built over the last years about how journals operate and why some journals accept, some journals will reject, because this process is not straightforward, is not scientific, and it's frustrating in many situations. Actually, I can see the following. We can see that this is a cascading or a river, and in this waterfall, let's say there is the water, which represent the submissions. Every year there is millions of article submissions that are falling like this waterfall from above. Journals or high impact journals are like these big bottles, and small journals or emerging journals are the small bottles. High impact factor journals, Q1 journals, they have a certain quota, they have a certain volume. Let's say they have 2-liter capacity. This 2-liter capacity maybe will make up to 2,000 papers. What they want to have, they want to go to the top of the waterfall. They want to have the best quality of water before it touches the lake. And from this water, they want to fill up these 2,000 journals. They want to get them, and that's it. They close the bottle, it's done. Therefore, they are very selective. Once they feel they are full, the portfolio is already finished maybe in August, they stop after submission. On August, they stop acceptance, or they even stop, some of them stop in April acceptance. So you can see that they are very selective. They want to niche work, only trendy work, focus on new things, and they have a very strong power of rejection. So those kind of journals, it's very difficult to go through because, like I told you, very selective, and there is so much submissions getting them. If they seek 2,000 journals, or if they publish 2,000 journals per year and they get 10,000 or 12,000, they will be rejecting 95%. So your chance to get through will be difficult unless the topic is super innovative, there is a wow effect or a eureka moment in the work. Then we can have the middle journals, which are established. They maybe have an impact factor, or they are in Q2 with an impact factor or not. They are listed Scopus, but they have not so much high competency. They receive still a lot of submissions. They have a lower capacity. They don't publish 2,000 journal per year. Maybe they publish 1,000 or 1,500, but still the submissions that they have, they don't receive like the top journals 10,000 or 20,000 submissions per year. They just receive 5,000, and therefore they have to be still selective but not so harsh, so they have a chance of acceptance of 50%, and therefore the desk rejects are lower, and they also can accept paper. But still they will be finishing or filling up their portfolio by mid-year or by the third quarter of the year, and then they don't need any more to have more submission. And then you find the early immersion journals that most probably are not Scopus listed, or still just Scopus listed, and they are getting to apply for an impact factor with Scopus or with other, Clarivate for example. Those journals, for example, they will be the totally opposite. Actually, it's opposite. They will receive very little submissions. They will receive maybe per year maybe 1,000 submission or 500 submission, while they have the capacity to produce 2,000 papers. Those young journals, they are in this transition stage, and what we can see that every journal has a history, has an editorial board, has a moment and stage. You need to identify my journal I'm submitting at which stage, and my paper, how far is it so much innovative. Sometimes the society is exaggerating with the importance of innovation. Sometimes there is very foundational, important work, not very innovative, but very valuable, higher value. And innovation is subjective. I had a video about it. So what you have to do is that you always have different tiers of journals, and if a paper doesn't go here, you apply it here, and you have to be flexible and understanding why this rejection happened. It's again demand and offer. High quality journals, they have too much request for publishing, and they have very limited opportunities for getting accepted, and therefore sometimes you find the editors becoming too much empowered, too much arrogant, and the rejection is so rude sometimes that happens. It doesn't mean that even your work has been reviewed, but it doesn't mean that also your work needs to be going through the peer review process. You learn from it and improve it. Now, how can I handle rejection? This is also a very important point in our presentation today. Well, some actions need to be done. You need to reassess the manuscript alignment with the journal scope, because it's true, it happens that many people just submit without having any idea about this journal. What are the conferences? What are the events? What is this community of people? How they think, how they work? You need to reformat again your work according to the guidelines. Some people just submit with the same manuscript formatting from a journal to another, while every journal might have different requirements for the style of references, the writing, the manuscript, and so on. Identify the alternative journals or the special issue. Like I mentioned here, you can have different alternatives from different categories and peers. Also, it's a good idea to use special issues, because special issues can be more tolerant with accepting papers, especially when there is a specific theme. And the good news about special issues that you will not face the same strict or dinosaur editors who are you're facing with the high impact journals. So act within a maximum 48 hours and develop a strategy so that you can act with the reaction, directly identify the alternative journal, start to modify the manuscript, prepare the response and the improvement. And in general, desk rejection often reflect resource limitation and not the manuscript quality. So for me, desk rejection doesn't mean anything. It's just because the system is overwhelmed. So just take it and move on and resubmit. But you need to have this, let's say, agility and fitness to be always able to resubmit. Now, some key actions important when handling the reviewer rejections. You need to analyze the reviewer feedback objectively, understand it well. I have a full video about how to check reviewer comments. Categorize the comments and how to see if they are major, they are revisions, they are minor, they are misunderstanding. This needs to be classified so that you tackle the easier comment and then go for the harder comment. And I advise you to watch the previous video on how to prepare a response letter. Another actions that you can take also is to revise thoroughly and address each comment in detail, but you can consider additional improvement by doing new experiment, doing more field work, adding another chapter or a new section completely with a complete detailed literature review, adding a new table, doing a meta-analysis. These are all additional work. In my research, for example, I was publishing one time in a paper and it required me to work 2 months additionally to add additional simulations and do another measurement, additional measurement, and to add it to the paper. So those are all part of the game. Don't hesitate to be open for that, and sometimes you need to have other authors that can help you with doing that. I advise you here then to revise thoroughly and address each comment and consider additional improvement through other authors. So you can align with other co-authors and ask them to tell them, okay, we have this paper, it got major modification, but we need to do another type of characterization, another type of experimentation, another type of simulation. And you can contact the authors. Even I prefer that they come from another different continent, for example. I always play this game with Chinese colleagues. And I tell them, okay, this paper requires this and this, it has these weaknesses. Would you be able to do an additional analysis for this work and perform it and share with us the result within 3 weeks? And then we contact the editor and we tell them, can you extend the deadline of resubmission? And then we just improve the work or do it. And if the paper is completely rejected, we just ask our colleagues to do it within 2 months time frame. We get it, we embed it, and then we improve the paper and we go on. So you must benefit from this huge opportunity of having contact with other co-authors. I always psychologically like to be sleeping while feeling that somebody else is working on the paper while I'm sleeping. So therefore I always like to work with Chinese people, because there's difference time between Belgium and China is 8 hours. So it's also a psychological feeling. I say, okay, I'm going now to sleep, but my colleagues in China, my co-authors, they're working on the paper. And when they go to sleep, I say now they are going to sleep, I'm starting to continue working on the paper. So it's a very psychological issue, but it gives me a lot of strength and makes me feel, okay, we are improving this paper night and day. Another issue or another plan that you can have is to look at the persistence and your adaptability as part of this game, and understand that you need to be agile and always ready for journal finders. So in the big perspective, say that I will submit to another journal that will be a better fit. It's not always the one that you selected, and this means that you need to have hands-on knowledge on the alternative journals. You have to have a list so that you can understand the cascading principle. You can benefit from journal finding tools and directly have an alternative and go on. So it's more about persistence, adaptability, agility, having plan B. Contingency plans are very important, even plan C and D, but never give up. Now, moving to the fifth part of today's presentation, which is the strategies to stay resilient. What are those strategies to stay resilient? First of all, I consider that rejection is part of every academic journey. I am considered reaching the highest research level of being one of the 1% scientists of the world, but still I get rejected, so don't take it personal. This is part of the academic journal. Build a shadow CV and mention the rejection, especially if you're early career researcher, or if you are submitting for a tenureship or for an assistant professor or for an academic job, because in the beginning you will have a lot of rejections and they will not be valorized or not valorized. Their added value is not apparent on the CV, so you can make a shadow CV and mention all the rejections. And for me, all the rejections must be acceptances, as long the work is solid and that you'll have the time and you have a mindset to improve the work and add additional information to support the work. Seek feedback from mentors and peers. It's very important to have a coach or have a mentor or have a peer, your supervisors, your colleagues, your co-authors. You can have your own supervisors also, or your coach or mentors. So those are very important points that will help you during the journey, and at any moment if you feel down or a paper is not accepted, you can directly come back to them and ask them, what should I do? What do you advise me to add? Because it's most of the time this last 20% of the additional work that needs to be added to make the paper shiny, brilliant, and useful. Now, in this sense, rejection should be interpreted as a redirection and not as a failure. And you should not stop by that. You have to redirect the work. This is an example of one of my colleagues, and they were always labeled that their work is local. So one of the arrogances of many editors in the Northwest or in the global North in general, that when they find research coming from the global South, they say, yeah, it's too local, it's only for this region, it doesn't cater for industrial countries or standardized countries. Well, this is very arrogant, because knowledge and science is universal, and many could be actually learned from the global South, not from the global North. We see already what's happening with the global North from problems, and we are stuck all as a planet in it. So this arrogant approach claims that the paper is too local, resulting that the scientists in this sense, they need to do additional work, they need to do more experimentation, provide more evidence, but if they are persistent, they will make it. So this paper here claims that this author waited 4 years until the paper got accepted. So I advise you to have this persistence, have this long vision, keep the themes that are important to your local community, to your society, and make sure that they are as much as possible scientific, evidence-based, and bring more experimentation, more fieldwork, consolidated, improve the methodology, and resubmit until the paper got accepted. But for sure, waiting for 4 years is already the duration of a PhD, requires that you have really a strong stamina. Another example for another paper for another of my colleagues who got the same label. This study is too local, just because it's from the global South. And you can see, I say here, I fully agree, it is even harder to convince editors and reviewers who are not aware of other fields. Interdisciplinary research, for example, is a big problem. The global South overall is suffering from all that, and unfortunately most of the reviewers, they are not sensitive, they never even traveled abroad. They are living in their city since they were born, and then they become the reviewers or the editors for topics that they are unable even to grasp and understand. So what you have to do is just, my opinion is to improve the work, resubmit, and then recontact those editors or those reviewers if you know who they rejected, and tell them after the paper is published, look, the paper is here, is published, it has been cited, and you were just a prig with your judgment, please stop that, and by that we can avoid these biases. So don't get intimidated with this local label that they start to say, because it's a kind of discrimination in general. Now, don't forget to see the bigger picture with rejection. The bigger picture is that the academic publishing industry is a capitalistic business valued up to 10 billion US dollars annually. So be strategic. Challenges include unpaid reviewers. The reviewers are not paid. Editors are paid. There is a bias by default in the desk rejections, and the desk rejection occur in less than 4 minutes. So this means that all your work you've been working on for 1 year or 2 has been judged in 4 minutes. Impossible for sure. It was only the broken system that would have allowed this to happen. So you need to understand the system is broken and you have to cross it. And now the open access barriers also are important, that you need sometimes to pay up to 5,000, 3,000, 4,000 euros or dollars to get the paper in an open access path which is more play and publish approach rather than the hard approach. So these are all important. You take them in the background, you resist them, you reject them, but it doesn't mean that you don't play the game. Early career researchers must navigate these systematic issues strategically and to be prepared, align with other co-authors, align with big teams. Like I told you, improve their work, and slowly you can put pressure. So you have to be here like a chess player who is strategically thinking on long term. We are not talking about short-term successes, we are talking about long-term strategical successes, and with time you will make it through, as long as you have a message, as long as you have a finding, as long as you have evidence to share with the community, and that it is valued and people would like to hear about this topic through the validation from your peers. Now the last, or before the last one of the slides, important on the how to develop a resubmission process. Well, to develop a resubmission process you need to take into account many things. Try to have some habits that will always make you on top of the game. You need always to be able to reassess and revise the manuscript. So you need to see how to handle reviewer comments, my video before, watch it so that you are already knowing how this process can we exercise it, how can I do it, can I master it. Then you need to have in your agenda sufficient time to be able at any moment to handle these rejections. So a busy scientist, meaning that he or she is a bad manager. Always a good scientist has always time, especially for these kind of revisions. Select then an alternative journal, address the feedback constructively and transparently, and from there start to work on submission and be confident. As long as you improve the work, and as long as you consolidated your co-authors, you increase the number of your co-authors expert in the area, and you add additional information, additional support, improve the writing style, did a proofreading, the paper shall be accepted. Well, this is the end of today's presentation. Some takeaway messages when it comes to handling manuscript rejection. First of all, editorial bias is driven by trends, favoritism, and prejudice, especially in journals with high impact factor that receive sometimes 5 times submissions the volume of accepted papers. So you need to understand, many editors, they are just following the trend. When it was COVID, everyone was talking COVID. When there is no COVID, there is no COVID. So this shows that editors are just following the trend, and this is under the pressure of the capitalistic model that wants to create from the science a TikTok short information. Also, a lot of editors, if you see their distribution, they come from the global north. Some of them exercise kind of discrimination against researchers from the global south, and the other way around. A lot of editors who come from the global south, they exercise discrimination against researchers from the global north. So there is all the time, these are humans at the end of the day, and the system is broken, and there is prejudice. And as I told you in several videos before, it's important to have an open mind, open the map, have friends all over the world, and focus more on the science side, and be aware about this editorial bias. Rejections are stepping stones, not roadblocks. So it's just an opportunity to improve, just an opportunity to improve my introduction, maybe to find a better fit. As long as the feedback is constructive, you won. So you didn't lose anything. It's just a matter of time. So just rework this thing. If you get a reviewer rejections, fine, just address them, and from there move on. Desk rejections require strategical redirection and fast redirection. So you need to be agile, and you need to be eyes on the ball. So reviewer rejections demand detailed revisions. Persistence and resilience define success. So as long as you believe that the work you did is useful, as long as the work you did is factual, is based on data, is experimental or field work based, or you did some modeling based on also experimental or field work, then it will go through. Align your manuscript precisely with the journal scopes. This is also very important, because some journals, they just say, we accept this type of topics, so don't try to force something that doesn't fit. Format your work meticulously. I have a video about formatting manuscript. You must be a professional document formatter, with figures, with tables, with text, with wording, with referencing, and so on. Present your work in a clear way, and for sure your work needs to be novel or have at least a novel contribution, even if this novelty is local or regional. It doesn't need to be always a universal novelty. By that, I end up today's presentation. I hope this presentation is helpful and useful on how to handle rejections of your manuscript. Don't hesitate to comment in this video, ask questions, share your thoughts, and I need your feedback in general to improve these videos, and for sure like and subscribe to the channel so that you get future videos. And if you have any positive or negative experience with rejection, don't hesitate to share it, because this could be an opportunity to give a good example for others or share with others the insight of an industry that is too capitalistic. Thank you very much. Good luck with your work. This was today's presentation on handling manuscript rejection. I hope your paper will get accepted. Thank you very much.